Skyrocket my career to my destiny. Let none stop me, get the best of me. We the chosen ones, what's electory?
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for number... I always lose what number it is. Do you remember? How many are we at now?
I have no idea. Okay, I think we're at like 8, 7, something like that. Top 2 podcasts so far.
Absolutely.
10, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Top 10. So today we've done podcasts over a number of topics. Today is a very special podcast because our brother Saul is somebody that I've known for a long time. He's kind of a local legend, and we got him to come and grace us with our presence. He was also an author, so he's an Amazon #1 best-selling author too. And we'll talk about, basically, what I want out of the podcast is talk to you about what your experience was with the book, along with the story, and then what is next. And that's what I want to talk about. And what about you, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to hear a little more insights on your stories are pretty crazy, you guys. For sure. You've got a lot going on in your life, and that's but it's an inspiration to put on paper and to read about, and you're inspiring a lot of people. So yeah, let's talk about it.
Thank you. So we published a book, Trajectory Volume 1, and my chapter was...
Real fast, Saul, I hate to interrupt you, but I'm going to interrupt you. Can you introduce yourself and give us just a little bit of context of who you are, what you do?
Sure. So my name's Solomon. Some people call me Saul. Shapiro. I have pretty much grown up in Riverside County. I did spend a couple of years outside of the United States. That was of interest. Here in Corona, California, I spend much of my time consulting with people on different issues. Mainly money matters, things that concern people when money issues go wrong. So that's been my specialty for about a decade. I have spent a lot of time here volunteering, so I know a lot of the local legends myself who have made this place a great livable town, because pound for pound, there are a lot of people here who like to help others. So it's a great space to be surrounded and grow a family here, which I did. And they're all out of the house now. I also spent some time teaching people how to lose their money. I enjoy teaching people how to gamble, different card games, and so I've become pretty good at that, and I enjoy that very much. And I do some consulting on AI as well.
That's a very good business model. So you teach them how to gamble, lose their money, then you help them fix their problems with money afterwards. So that's our circle.
That's right. During the week, I'm fixing the money troubles, credit scores and debt, and student loans and issues like that. And on the weekends, teach them how to party. So it's sometimes the two business models overlap, and I have that service in both rooms.
Do you have any practices that you've learned that you can take to the actual casino and use yourself?
Yes, the main practice I've learned is not to spend time in a casino. I took as a college course around age 17 statistics of gambling, not knowing that I ended up managing casino parties later in life. And I learned how to pretty much get really close to breaking even with the house, but knowing that the odds, the house still always wins. In the end, the house wins. You have the exceptions, and that's why people keep coming back, because they think they'll be the exception. But the reality is, I spent 7 days on a cruise, and I looked at the craps table once, and it looked attractive, but not enough to spend my money.
So I remember in high school, everybody used to gamble at lunch and everything, play cards, and blackjack and things like that. So what I did is I learned how to shuffle really, really well. So then I would always be the house. And that worked out pretty well.
Am I not surprised?
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, be the house. That's how you win.
So let's talk about first getting into the book, your expectations of what it would be like to be an author, and if you had thought about being an author before, because I know we've had this conversation. So I'm just curious if how you're looking at it coming into being an author, and then what the experience of it after you did it.
So two things come to mind immediately as an author. One of them is that I knew I had a book in me for decades, and I talked about writing a book after a significant event in my life, 2 weeks back to back, where I survived near-death experiences. And I thought, I need to put these experiences on paper and share them with other people. I wasn't really sure, as I was enumerating all the ways I had survived something that could have been deadly, what was the message for other people? As we got closer to, well, this opportunity came along, and I got invited to be one of the selected authors, which was quite a privilege that I had not anticipated, but was very excited about early on. It wasn't until I shared the story with the book editor, who had already become a best-selling author, that I was able to see what the message would be. It was really enlightening to see that even though you have a story, you may not know what's the meaning to the general public. And she helped me understand what the public would get out of that story. As well as the other thing that comes to mind is somebody asked me, oh, what are you gonna make off the book? And I laughed because I thought it didn't even dawn on me that we might make money. Some of the books, that's a bonus, of course, but it was being able to tell the story, and really because I told the story multiple times, and many times the story that was published in our first book was something that you could make a movie out of. I really needed to see that in print so that someone else couldn't take that without compensating the author, because it's now been published and copyright, and I think it makes more sense now. If someone wants to take that and expand on it, I'll give them the rest of the story, which, is still to be revealed.
So going through and actually putting all your thoughts on paper, was that cumbersome? Was it difficult? Did it flow through easily? How was that process?
So I had written the first paragraph or chapter out of each of over 24 ways I went through near-death experiences. And so I knew what I wanted to say, but really until I put it on paper and had someone else who knew what they were looking for read it, I didn't know that I could make it into a readable story. So all true in the story, but what we emphasized was what I may have glossed over. The editor realized, no, that's something people are going to want to hear a lot more about, no matter how you were feeling when you went through that experience. So it was worrisome, but working with the other authors made it much more comfortable to do. It made sense that if you have a story and you have people who've already written stories, especially if you're telling a true story, it was actually a lot easier in the end than I expected it to be. That's probably the lesson, is that most people probably think they have a story to tell, they just don't know how they're going to go about it. So just working with professionals made it possible to bring the story to life so other people could read about it.
And then after the book has been published, have you had any experiences or interactions with people that have either made you think, I'm glad I did it, or it was a waste of my time? I mean,
Okay, so I think everybody who participated in the book probably got positive experience out of it. Personally, it elevated my brand from telling a story that many people were interested in to being a published author is pretty phenomenal. It's a different level of professionalism because you've gone from someone who can tell a story to someone who's told people a life experience that most people can't imagine living through, let alone the lessons that came from experiencing what I experienced. So being able to tell the story, being able to publish it, and being able to lecture on those topics after has been much more meaningful than lecturing on some of the subjects I talked about previously. As a published author, people want to hear what you have to say. The facts didn't change, but my authenticity became much more real.
I share that experience too, but I just wanted to hear it from somebody else because I think what we're doing with the book is pretty prolific, and and especially the way that we're doing it, as far as we're all equal, everybody is is the published author. And so anyway, I just wanted to get your experience for that. And then we're going to be launching another book soon. What are your thoughts on that?
So you mentioned it, that everyone shared equally in both in responsibility and coming to the table and in the benefits. That was something unexpected to me. When you have multiple best-selling authors willing to bring you to the table and help you become a best-selling author, that was very unexpected and very rewarding because you already did that. And so it was, to be treated as an equal was unexpected and very rewarding, very appreciative. I really got a lot of meaning out of that. That was something that someone considering writing a book now and might be invited to join us in the next project. You can't really anticipate how much it means that someone who already is a best-selling author is willing to help you possibly become a best-selling author, tell your story, and maybe you have a book in you, but being able to just write a portion of a book, a chapter even, is going to make your book way easier to publish later. A totally unexpected reward.
Awesome. Yeah, I think the whole process was pretty awesome. I mean, it's one thing to have a story that's going to help someone else, right? Because that's the whole theme of the book, is something like a story or idea that could elevate the trajectory of someone's life. So that in itself is already cool. Because even if you help one person, it's all worth it. But not only that, now you're a published author in the intention of helping people. And then not only that, you're a best-selling author with the intention of helping people. So I mean, that number one best-selling author, right? So that says a lot, I think. This you can write some, fantasy novel or something and get best-selling author, but literally the intention is to help people, and you're a number one bestseller. That's cool. I think that's pretty awesome. Yeah.
It's interesting that the three of us sit here and already had experience helping other people. So the fact that I'm invited back to the table, and I think the people that are most, interested in applying to come back to be in the next book, and those who have expressed interest in being part of the next project, that seems to be a much more common theme, that you don't just say you want to help people. We had experience helping people. And I think that part really brings trajectory to life, that we really are helping improve the trajectory of someone's upward life, because they can read about some of the things we went through, and the common theme is, wow, we could make it through that. You could probably make it through whatever you're going through right now.
So that being said, what was your story?
So my chapter was titled Twice Kidnapped: How I Learned Spanish and Other Near-Death Experiences. And it's hard for people to believe that I lived through that. The first time I was kidnapped, it didn't feel like a kidnapping because it was my dad taking me out of the country with my twin brother. I didn't realize, as an 8-year-old, that, he never planned on coming back to the United States. And, when in the case of parental kidnapping, most kids don't know that they're, in essence, playing a pawn in someone else's scheme. But, getting found, getting arrested, finding out that there's articles all over the world saying that my twin and I had been kidnapped, and then getting surrounded at gunpoint, getting hauled off like a criminal, getting thrown in an orphanage for 9 months of my life.
Man, he said just his words, but if you sit and think about those words for a little bit, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And your kid, right? Your kid, the first night in the orphanage, thinking about the fact that we got two parents and all these kids have their cots lined up in a row with our two new cots to join them. And we've got two parents fighting over us. And it was pretty effed up to think about, even at that age, I just turned 9 years old, and to think about what people will do to fight each other over what they think is what's best for their kids. But in some cases, it's really what's best for the parent. Because and you can do this in any level of life, if you thought about what's best for the person you believe you're supposed to be helping, you would act very differently, whether it's educating your kid, whether it's custody battle with your kids, whether it's the person on the street you're trying to help. If you thought about what's best for the end user of what you're claiming or proclaiming you're going to do, man, people would behave very differently. You took out, who's getting paid and, who all the other players are. Just think about what's best for who you claim you try to help, and you'll make a different decision. Foster care system, that applies to maybe even who you're voting for. I mean, really, every level of decision in life could go either way. What's best for you or what's best for the person you claim you're going to help. It's really, really different outcomes.
So there you are in the foster home in a different country where everybody speaks a different language. And I can only imagine at the awkward and the bullying and the God only knows what kind of situations you had to endure. What took you out of that? How did you transition? What happened?
Well, what happened was eventually my mom gave up the battle. She saw that things were going her way in Argentina for custody. She gave up the custody battle. We lived a fairly normal life for almost 2 years. And then she got permission to take us on vacation, which, that's how we ended up down there in the first place. His dad got permission to take us on vacation. So we knew what was going to happen. I told my brother that we're never coming back here if we go. If we leave, we're never coming back.
And at that point, you were already secured in and you probably didn't want to leave.
Didn't want to leave, yeah. I mean, this is the lesson, right? If you've divorced and you decided to split up for whatever reason, barring abuse or a death in the family, and you divided your family, and you now, whoever gets custody is the one who has to have all the responsibility, take you to the doctor's appointments, take you to school, worry about homework, worry about chores. The one who doesn't get custody, they get you on the weekend. No responsibility, no chores, no punishment for the most part. That's who you want to be with until you grow up, maybe to not only out of the house, but maybe until you have your own kids. You don't realize that wasn't where that wasn't where the hard work was. And you come to appreciate, as I came to appreciate my mom a lot more later in life than I did when I was going through it, for sure. And that's the lecture I've given to many, many dads, is most of the time dads don't end up with primary custody here in the United States, and that's how it was in the 60s. I think it's still, there's more equity now, but is it really equity if you're trading your kid every Wednesday? Because I also been the guy who picked up someone's kids from one parent and transported them to the other, so they didn't have to go through what I had to go through every time. My two parents only really saw each other in court for 10 years.
Wow.
Well, that was not a new experience. So I helped kids not have to go through that. not sure if that answered the question. But coming out of Argentina was truly a kidnapping. 10 guys with guns, no question about what was happening. And we got snatched, thrown in a private car, drew no private airstrip, blown out of the middle of Argentina. And that was the end of 6th grade. Didn't see Dad again until graduated high school, finished the first year of college. University of California. That was tough.
Damn. And then when you saw him, what was that?
Yeah, it was like one of the top 10 happiest days of my life. Like right up there, birth of my kids. And yeah. So, because I thought I'd never see him again. So that was, again, being reunited with the parent who always have fun with you. That's always going to be fun. And unless they've used you, and we spent the next over 3 decades. He'd fly out here for a week. I'd fly out to New York for a week. Still didn't make up for those teenage years, not having the dad. So that's something that I took to heart, when my kids were born, is that those kids would never go through what I had to go through.
So did he just show up somewhere, or what was the circumstances surrounding that? That's what I want to know.
Okay. Well, I had just graduated high school and finished that first year of college concurrently at UCR. And I was going on a reward trip. I was going to see my sister in Colorado, Lainey. She lives in Israel now. And I had no idea that she had planned this surprise. She knew that I was coming after graduation. Your graduation date's set and everything. But she had made arrangements for Dad to be there. So, I flew out. I was supposed to fly out on a Saturday. So but again, I'm writing the book. I ended up flying out Friday night on an earlier flight, missed another death-defying experience at home while I was on that flight. And I talk about that in the book. My room basically caught fire after I left. I woke up the next morning and I got a call from my mom saying, "Hey, your room just burned down." It's just no other way to put it. Just your room. Yeah, just your room caught fire, and so she was calling to give me the news. My sister goes, "I got more news for you. Go in the kitchen. I got a surprise for you." And the kitchen. There's my dad and my stepmom. Yeah, that was a pretty freaking awesome day.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did you say?
I can't even remember. It was just unbelievable. It was unbelievable. It's just, never thought about when we'd be reunited again. I dwelled more on the difficulty of not having Dad around, decisions to make, paying for my own college. Just different things that, I didn't think I'd have to figure out on my own. Teenage boy without a dad, it's, kids survived it, but it's not an easy experience. And hats off to the moms who were both roles, because it is tough raising a kid with 2 parents. So raising the kid, one parent raising kids, that's a really tough job.
Yeah. Especially if it's your mom, because, just typically men have higher paying jobs for whatever reason. Not always, but so then it would just by natural circumstances be more difficult because you don't necessarily have all the resources that, 2-parent families have, or, you don't even have half of what 2 parents have, which is unfortunate, but
that probably helps me relate more to that idea as well, because we didn't have the resources. We lived we had food stamps, we had Medicare, we had, or whatever we call it, Medi-Cal or Medicaid. Yeah, having to go to the doctor that that the government chooses instead of you might have chosen, having to be rejected at the store because certain things couldn't buy with aid. So I know when someone says, yeah, they don't have enough money for food, I know exactly what that felt like. Yeah, it sucks.
Yep. It's interesting because that's, knowing you for a long time, and I've seen you in a bunch of different circles, and you are always trying to help, and there is a level of humility that you have that I just don't know if anybody can experience that level of humility without being in a circumstance where they had to have a piece of that humble pie. They had to suffer through the food stamp situation, the embarrassment, that am I good enough? Why am I here? How come I can't have these things where this person is, lucky and I can, and I feel like without having that situation yourself, you can't really put yourself in other people's shoes because of that embarrassment and so I think, but now I understand why I've seen you in the different circles and why you're always trying to help because that you recognize the reality of how many people are in that boat. And if there's something that you can do to help that's what you're doing. And that's what's kind of giving you purpose. And I think that's why you're considered a local legend.
Thank you. I hadn't heard that term. I appreciate it.
There's more.
Here's so I mentioned in the book that probably one of the motivations of helping people when they get in trouble with money is that I know what that feels like when you don't have enough money to last the end of the month. You can't pay all the bills on time. Don't have a good enough credit to go get, replace your car or fix your car or, get a better apartment because you can't qualify to get out of the apartment you're in. I know what all those things feel like. But this week, I've had the conversation with several people who also spent time out of the country, maybe were born out of the country and started successful businesses or practices helping other people here in America. And people have asked me, can I participate in educating like a high school level, which I do in financial education, different ways so that they don't become my clients after college, as an example, or miss college and end up maybe becoming my clients because of their credit issue. Well, a better lesson for kids, and I'm happy to teach that lesson, and I can do it very easily, and I do it often. But a better lesson for kids today in America is to spend time working at a business that's run by someone who was not born in this country, because that lesson would raise much better quality of workers to appreciate what we take for granted as Americans. Is I've seen how people live in other countries, and many of us have seen that. Some of us as visitors, some of us as residents. Every person who was born elsewhere and comes here and starts a business, they have lived it. And that would be the lesson that would change the course of how kids see whether they go to college or not, what their work ethic is. That's a work ethic that is very difficult to teach unless you've experienced it.
Yeah. It's also interesting because I've worked with clients that came from outside of the country and they work completely different. Like they focus on different things and even the methods of what they do is different. Like some of them look like they're almost like skating on the edge of legality, but it's legal. But you wonder like why they do that. And it's because they're so in their country, they have all these rules and restrictions that they can't do. So when they come to America, it's very obvious what they should be doing because they can't do that in their own country. They're like, there's laws that make it so we can't do this, but when we come here, we can do it. That's amazing. But we don't, as Americans, don't even see the opportunity or even know what those things are. So yeah, it's for sure that different perspective would go a long way. Yeah.
Totally makes sense. And businesses who are successful in America, some of those CEOs do the same thing, right? They do push the boundaries of what they're allowed to do, and that's made some very successful businesses because doing things that other people wouldn't dare do. You can do it legally, do something someone else hasn't dared do. It's probably going to help you be successful. But watch a foreign business owner, and there are lessons there that we are not teaching.
Yeah, I don't disagree. There's not much of a substitute for real work. Like, you know, you can go to a business school. As a matter of fact, last night I was in a meeting where, you know, a mutual friend of ours, Ellie, Audrey, that owns All Magic, and his daughter just went to business school, and she was, you know, got a degree, been there 4.5 years, and she's in the meeting, and there's Ellie and his managers that are running the shops, and the real life experience compared to the textbook experience, two different things. And while the textbook gives you theory and gives you a structure of what you think, how things go, a lot of times it's not real. It's like somebody thought of, in a perfect world, this is how things are supposed to go. But like Mike Tyson says, it's all fun and games till you get punched in the face, right? Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. And being in business, especially today, especially in California, you get punched in the face and then kicked in the butt and then, you know, everything else. So,
I was in a room the other day, friendly poker game with some leaders in town, business people and so forth. And one of them said, I was going to bring my daughter. She just graduated college, but I wasn't sure, you know, how you guys would talk around her. And I'm thinking, this would be great experience if you want to get the real world. And maybe some people are cussing and maybe they're saying some things that might be a little colorful, all in good fun. Nothing really insensitive, but I found it interesting that the conversation was about whether the talk would be appropriate just among other business people or people that lead others in town. That would be a great experience to be around. And maybe the conversation changes a little bit for the better. But I definitely wouldn't be afraid to have my daughter in that room, for sure, especially if she's looking to get real life experience.
wow. So we have a snapshot of SALT coming into the future, whether it's the book or business. What's your plan of attack? What do you see yourself doing in the next, you know, year or so?
So thanks to a project called Inland Empire AI, I've been seeing a different way of how business works, right? So understanding a little bit better about the tools that someone watching maybe our conversation a year from now will understand AI very differently than we understand it today, this year. So I'm looking at how AI is implemented in my business and in Shapiro Consulting, but also in how I can help other businesses now use that to benefit their customers, and how business people or nonprofits can use it to raise more money with how to be more effective, right? So that's an area that I'm concentrating on this year that I think is going to be a game changer. And I'm very excited about how I'm able to help other businesses see that differently from an outsider's perspective.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think one thing that AI is doing is making businesses better, but not because of the technology, but because of the thinking. Because a lot of people, they just cut corners because of cost. Like, oh, I know I need this person, but I can't afford it, so I'll have this guy do two things at once or something like that. They'll cut corners, but now that AI could do so many things, now they're kind of being like, they see the light. It's like, oh, I should have had a person do this and I should have a person do this. Maybe AI could do it. So even if they don't implement AI, or even if, you know, they just learn about it, it's going to open their eyes to like what they should have been doing. You know, I see that as kind of the trend right now, which is good for business. You know, everybody's going to do things a little better.
Totally makes sense. And it's things that, you know, if you haven't used it, you don't know what it might be able to do. And so just being able to have a conversation about it and realize some of the things that you guys, for example, have introduced, I've seen how it's working for business owners. It's, and I don't even think, I haven't seen any jobs eliminated from it from my perspective. I'm seeing how it's making the business make more money. that's a better use of it. It doesn't have to be that way. There will be people who are doing something that they could, re-engineer themselves and do something different, because if there's something AI can do better, faster, why not use it and put that person's talent to better use? We just need to think differently, think different.
So I know that, is it Optimus Prime? I know Transformers, but what's Elon's thing? The Optimus, yeah. Just I mean, it's not a Prime. Prime is Prime, but Optimus, yeah. So I know you've talked a couple times about the production goals, that he's gonna have basically a shitload of these robots, and they are gonna be able to do basically everything. And he's gonna produce, and because there's so much, it's gonna be produced at such a low cost that it's going to really redesign our entire ecosystem of life, right? So how do you think that's going to impact us when we have robots that can basically do, I mean, how I'm envisioning it, they could plant a garden, they can pick it, they can cook it, they can clean, they can do basically everything. That's just in their home. And then now, what about for the businesses of, construction and doing, I'm just.
It's interesting because, Elon Musk kind of looks like a loose cannon, right? Like he just does all these things and it's like does this and this and this and this fails and this goes. But honestly, I think he's a very strategic chess player. Like he's strategic many steps ahead. And what he's doing right now with Doge, did you hear about what he's trying to do about cutting everybody $5,000 checks?
I have not heard that.
So one of the ideas that he has is he wants to give everybody a check for $5,000 to share in how much money they're saving, because they're saving billions and billions and billions of dollars. So let's share the wealth with the people.
Oh, let everybody rate out everybody. He's gonna.
But the thing is the strategic thing, and if you see this in his past, there's always the steps to the next thing, right? So he's preparing us for this better economy, lower costs, because he even says that once the Optimus bots are ready, and he just pumped his AI like crazy, right? So now the AI is getting to the point where it could probably handle some of these robots. But he was saying originally 100 million robots he wanted to create, and then it changed to 2 billion robots, ridiculous, right? But the idea is that goods and services will be so cheap that you won't have to work. And that's literally what the future kind of looks like, is that almost everything that we, our food for farming, our energy, all that kind of stuff will be just made from robots that are working 24 hours a day, that don't need breaks, that they make everything so cheap that's really gonna change the whole world, basically. I remember all these they're looking at all these mines. Back in the day, there's all these scams for gold mines and things like that, where there's gold there, but it would take $100 billion to excavate it, because right. But now with the robots or not, so you got to look at that in every industry. All the things that were way too expensive to do is going to be possible now.
I wonder how that's going to affect the real estate market, right? Because people have houses, that's interesting.
We have a real world example that may be able to experiment with that, right? Because we have thousands of houses that burned in California, and there's not enough construction workers in California to rebuild all those houses. So there is going to have to be a different solution for that. Will they use 3D printing? Will they use robots? Will they use...
It depends if you're a conspiracy theorist. You're going to say they're not going to build houses there at all. They're going to build the rail system or what.
I talked to someone yesterday who was scared, and I said, let's explore what you're scared about, right? Because there's a political climate that's really, we're very early in to this Department of Government Efficiency, and some people are scared about it. And I said, look, making government more efficient does not in any way affect how you're doing your work right now. But imagine your paycheck is not 100%. You're not getting paid in full for what you're doing. So if you're paying somebody out of your paycheck to do something that they don't have to do, is that better for you if we don't have to pay them anymore? There's other jobs they could do if they've done a good job where they're at now. I mean, nobody wants to see someone lose their job. But we don't want to pay for someone else's job if they're not helping us, and we're the ones paying for the job. And I have examples because I've worked at the county level, I've worked at the state level, I've worked at federal government projects, and I personally suffered the consequences of bringing efficiency to the table. One time my job was threatened at the federal level for being too efficient. At the county level, prior to to people in charge of the county, I actually lost my job for making a suggestion that saved a boatload of money. I got rehired, but it was with a very different attitude. So the higher up you go in government, the easier it is to see that some departments have a mindset that maybe my job is just to do what I have to keep my job, which makes the people you're supposed to be helping suffer greatly.
Well, it's actually even worse than that, because what it is that like a lot of these different government kind of I guess missions or different things that they're doing, that these different I don't know, programs that they have funding that's allocated for that. And then a lot of these positions, they act in the way as that if they don't use the funding, then they lose the funding.
That's right.
So like if they don't use half of it, then they'll only get half of it next year. If they use the whole thing, they'll get the whole thing next year. So it's almost anti-efficient, because you need to just do whatever it takes to spend all the money, regardless and if it's helping the cause or not. So you get the money the next time. And that's literally where we're at. So I think that's what they're trying to fix. But there's going to be a lot of growing pain for sure.
Yeah, then how many contracts you have a buddy that happens to either supply the product or perform the service that the contract is looking for. And it's like, hey, Sal, I got this contract. I got to spend $2 million. You want to help me do that? Okay, so I'll only charge you, if you want the contract, 30%. And you're like, okay, 1.7 or 1.4 million is better than zero. And then, I'll give you back 700, 8, whatever it is, $600,000. So,
Of course, it's supposed to be illegal, but we're seeing some people.
yes, illegal. Right.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's not always like that, but we can see where it feels like it's often like that. And didn't plan on getting political, but it does hurt when you think that you're trying to help, make a process better. But when you apply for some, let's do something very uncontroversial. How many people know someone who is disabled for life and got their disability without any outside help, just filled out the application, got approved, right? What is the common known thing about that situation? The common thing is that you probably had to hire a lawyer and you had to wait 2 years. The lawyer got paid out of the 2 years back pay. That's the most common thing. If you know someone who's completely disabled, can't work, they're probably waited 2 years and they're hiring a lawyer to get it solved. It's very unfair. I had, when my dad died over a decade ago now, and he got buried in a Jewish cemetery instead of the VA where he served in World War II, active wartime. So they reimburse you. They reimburse you $900 for your headstone or footstone or what have you, and maybe a little bit for your plot. I had a sister with a PhD and a sister with international import-export expertise, and a brother who wrote the technical manuals for IBM back in the day. Those three filled out the application, and I got the rejection letter, 2 pages that you got rejected, and 12 pages was how to appeal the decision. Oh, wow. Okay, now what? If those three maybe ask and figure out I'm doing the government form now. How am I going to get the money? I'm still waiting, by the way. So, same with the Department of Education, and I've seen people apply I've seen people that have worked 2 decades in public service to get a 1 decade it takes to get the thing that they were promised when they started school, which was you could be on track to get your loans forgiven if you agree to work in public service.
Yeah.
How does it take 2 decades to get 1 decade of forgiveness? It's pretty messed up.
Well, one of the biggest things that I am looking forward to, and again, I don't even think this is political, but it is just because of everything that you're reading, but you have people that are in Congress that make $200,000 a year, 150, even 400,000, right? And somehow their net worth just explodes, and they have a net worth of 23 million, 50 million, 70 million on a salary of 200,000. The math just doesn't math. So I'm hoping that, like him or not like him with Elon and what he's doing, is that they're going to track that stuff down. And people that were doing backhanded things, they're going to get, their day to shine. And then if that is the case, what kind of retribution is there going to be? So I don't know. I just hope that there's something in it, and retribution or not, at least we see what happened, and then they can have to admit, okay, yes, this is what I did.
So my take to unravel the political discussion is actually I have had good and bad experiences with calling my politicians. My personal representatives, knowing them through business and through chambers of commerce activities and different volunteerism around town, has been positive in the sense that being able to pick up the phone and call the person that you elected to represent you and tell them about someone who's suffering and that your government aid could probably intervene and just shine some light and make sure someone's doing the right thing for that case has been invaluable. I've also seen some outside of my personal town representatives where I've sent other people and said, oh, you know what? You call your congressman's office or your assembly person's office, and they have someone who can help you with that, and they didn't have the same experience. So I get where some people would be sour over that. I couldn't speak to whether they made wise investments or had other reasons for getting wealthy. But I can say if they're doing their job, I'm really excited about that. And my personal experience has been much better than what I've seen elsewhere in the country. That's the part that saddens me, that someone else can't have the same experience. I don't think it's because I know the office, but I don't think it hurts that I know the office.
Yeah.
I think it's important to know who represents you and have a good dialogue with them and hope that you don't need them. But if you do, they'll take your call. That's important.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure where else to go from that, because I did start going down a political door. Yeah. And, some people are, yeah, Kemet, and other people are like, shut up, you don't know. But it's funny because I watch my Facebook feed and literally just people going back and forth and on both sides of the spectrum. And either of them think that the other is so stupid, right? But both of them are smart in their own way, but they are so just antagonistic. And it's like, most of us want the same things. But because of the emotional charge and, if you're a conspiracy theorist, the psyops that are going on, again, they're out there and to polarize people and create conflict, because as long as you have conflict, you can be controlled, right? That's where the conspiracy theory goes, right? Because if I can push your buttons, then I can push your buttons.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
I did work for a newspaper. Good news, it does not sell. It's not front page. Bad news is what sells the newspaper. Really bad news is what sometimes makes the newspaper go to press the second time. Realize it's taken a different form now, and online and less in print. There's still some in print. And that's actually one of the things I would talk about in an upcoming chapter in our books. But it is interesting that people are purposely stoking the fire to seem like it's just one way or another when it doesn't have to be that way. Your reasonable people could just agree to disagree. But like you say, if you really thought about what's the outcome you're looking for, we all want life to be better. We all want the economy to work right. We all would love lower taxes. We'd like food prices to be lower. We all have similar goals. But man, people have a different way of thinking about how it's supposed to come to be. It's really,
I mean, it's going to be interesting because, I mean, a lot of that has to do with the difference in how they believe money should be handled and spent, right? Money is pretty much everything. But if everything goes the way it's heading, I think money is going to be irrelevant. Because think about when goods and services are so cheap that you can literally get materials for so cheap and pay, hire your $5,000 Tesla bot or tell him to build you a Lamborghini and he could build you a Lamborghini. Wow, you know what I mean? Or, I mean, the same, like the idea is like, like right now, there's going to be a little bit of a stretch where they'll still have like, some loyalty to the brand, right? But it's like lab-grown diamonds, for example. Lab-grown diamonds right now are actual real diamonds. The difference really that experts can only tell is that the lab-grown are too perfect. It's only that the flaws happen in the natural ones that they know is natural. So it's the same material. It's better than the real thing. Eventually, I think diamonds are not going to be sought after anymore because of that. But they're still like, oh, we want a real one because it's rare. But it's not rare anymore, right? That's what's going to happen with everything.
interesting.
Right? So what do you do when money is not irrelevant? Now, that's always been the scoreboard for status is money. It's going to be something. It has to be something else.
Yeah, I think we're onto something with what we're doing with the whole personal branding. I don't care what it's going to be because that's
The new currency will be attention.
Who has your attention? Yeah. Well, that is Jim.
you act.
Right. Yes. Who are you paying attention to, or who are you influencing? Right. Two different sides of the same coin. I think that's on my goalpost this year. To grow my personal brand in a way that I can be more effective in how I intentionally set out to coach people, guide people, or help them solve a problem, whether they've hired me or not to do that. I want to have enough. I want the content to be clear enough that people can get some help on their own. And if they choose not to do it yourself, I'll be there to help provide the hands-on assistance with my teams to be able to help their personal problem, whether it's financially or efficiency-wise with AI. Right.
Right. So, I feel like we could go on forever about a lot of things, and we'd probably go down a couple wormholes and then really piss some people off. So, and make other people happy, right? Because there's always both. But is there anything, before we bring it to a close, if somebody's listening to this podcast and they're like, I'm in the mood for some good advice, what would you have to say to anybody listening to this that might be looking at in a situation you were in?
So that's actually one of the things I want to talk about in my next chapter. I've been credited with saving someone's life more than once, and I've told the story a few times in friendly circles of one of those incidents in particular surrounding 9/11, and it always left me trying to figure out, well, what's the lesson? Right now it feels a little self-serving because I'm describing how I did something. I was the hero in the story. But when I told that story recently to a friend who was just listening to me describe what I was challenged with, how does this become a compelling story? It's an interesting human interest story, but what's the lesson? And she goes, oh, it's clear. It was clear to her. She goes, you help change the trajectory of someone's daily life, and you directed them to do something differently than they typically would do. And that action saved their life. Had they just done their routine and not done what I asked them to do, they would be here. They would not have survived. So the lesson was quite clear now with my friend Lisa's wisdom was maybe you're offered a chance to do something differently. Maybe you're told to take a different path. You should listen.
Yeah, I think also for people to realize that even if it's a small thing, the impact that you may have on somebody else might be way bigger than you even know. You know?
That is true even on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It's why you'll almost always find me smiling. It comes very easily because it's the best gift you might give. So it might be the only smile they get that day. So sometimes someone will ask me, why are you always smiling? And I'm like, well, what would you have me do otherwise? Like, just because I have a problem and I choose not to share it with you, why should I ruin your day? Right? It's a different philosophy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I agree. So it is interesting how we're all on the same path to help the trajectory of other people's lives. And we can do that in a number of different ways. But I think the underlying the underlying message is that it doesn't happen by itself. You have to exert some kind of action or exert some kind of energy, right? If you just sit on the couch and you're watching TV and watching the boob tube, then nothing is going to happen. But getting up, nothing good. But getting up and going out and if there's a networking meeting, sometimes people they have social phobias and they don't want to. But what you find is that when you actually get up, you force yourself to get up and get out, you don't die, right? You don't die. You go and you meet people, and what you find is that other people have similar phobias and they have similar things that are holding them back. But once you overcome that and you get out, that's where you see it. If you don't get up and move, then you're not going to be able to see that there are other people just like you that are overcoming, that you can help. So I think, with what we're doing with the book, with the trajectory meetings, with, whatever else we're doing with the other podcasts, with the different projects that we're going to be putting out there, be part of you, because you're already part of it. So you be part of the conversation, be part of the community that we're developing, that we already have a head start, right? But we need help. We can't do it by ourselves. If it's just us, then it ends when we walk out the door. But we need you to come and be part of the conversation, because regardless of how you think about yourself, you have skills, you have connections, you have emotions, and you have resources that can help somebody else. But if you don't do something about it, then it can't. So my appeal is to you to come out and be part of the conversation. And it could be an email, it could be any kind of thing that will help people connect, help people accomplish a goal that they're trying to strive for, which leads me, maybe Jason, you can mention the community of some of the things that we're doing there.
Yeah, the online community is a great place to start. I mean, really, it's kind of set up to try to help you achieve your goals. You could post your goals in there and everybody will, keep you accountable and give you some feedback and give you help to try to achieve those goals. But the actual magic of it is the ability to help others achieve their goals, because that's when big things really happen, when you start to do that.
That applies to everything from weight loss to financial goals to being healthier in general to getting out. I think we have a very good growing presence online. There's still no substitute to seeing each other in person. So there's a component that you've allowed around, even around the podcast sessions, where typically an audience is still invited to be part of it. And it makes a difference when there's an audience there, but it also makes a difference they can have a conversation. And every time I've been able to be part of that audience, you really don't know what you're going to miss until you're there. And there's always a nugget like, wow, what if I wasn't here today? I heard a story from someone they've never repeated since or before that. So there's somebody made a performance that they hadn't been able to publicly share previously. There's been some nuggets. There was a time where you pulled something out of your book, that program, that Break the Locks, and you offered it to those who were present for no charge. It's something that usually sells for a lot of money, and only those who participated got to be a part of the accountability. There's other accountability things that we've been able to join, but if you weren't there, you missed out. And so you got to be present.
Yeah, I'm good. I don't know. I think today was a very good podcast. I think it was insightful. I think that people who don't know you already, if they hear the podcast, will have a really good, clear insight into what drives you, and I think that's important. So I wanted to thank you for showing up and being our most distinguished guest.
Actually,
Thank you, so.
thanks so much. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
All right.
goodbye to me.
All right.
I'll see you online next time.
Yes.